But yeah, speaking of Spider-Man, let's roll on the topic too. Let's talk about Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac. So, we are going to go non-spoiler first, and then we're going to go full-blown spoilers of this game. So if you guys do not want spoilers on Spider-Man 2 when we get to that point, whoosh, see you bye. Come back when you beat it and have some fun gushing over all the cool things that were in this game. So let's jump into it. So, Spider-Man 2 was an amazing game to play, honestly. We had a great time on stream replaying the first game in Miles Morales to kind of get into the zone for Spider-Man 2. Personally, I played it late. I think I started it maybe a week and a half after it first launched. So that kind of FOMO and that little gap just kind of helped build the anticipation for me personally of diving into Spider-Man 2. And when I finally got the chance to do it, it was amazing. Graphically, it looks fantastic. Even running on an old TV that I've had for numerous years. Looks stunning. The gameplay mechanics switching from Peter to Miles and how they each are different from one another in terms of their move sets and obviously their mannerisms and their characters was a lot of fun. And the story that they decided to tell in this game with Kraven, with Venom, and all the other layers that we'll talk about later. What is talking? It was a beautiful story that they told. A lot of ebbs and flows. It was compelling. Made you want to just keep going. Seeing how this adventure was going to unfold, unravel. And this game has done something that I haven't felt for a while, where I'm sad that it's over and just want more of it in a selfish way. Just once we wrapped that game, it felt like obviously a big check mark. Wow, we just went through this amazing experience. I don't want to say empty, but it felt lost. What do I do now? Finishing the story, and then as of recording this past weekend, platinuming the game, so getting everything done, all the side quests, achievements, collectibles, etc., trophies. It's this weird gray area of I don't know what to do. That was such a great experience in terms of its narrative, in terms of its gameplay, and things of that nature, that it met all expectations and even exceeded some, in terms of where this title could have gone, and the team obviously that has put it out there. Not to say that there wasn't some things that didn't match up. There's a couple bugs here and there. Nothing crashed the game. There was a couple textures that would pop in and out, or things would be where they're not supposed to be, character model wise, of an arm through something for an enemy. Nothing crazy. I mean, it's expected, unfortunately, with all these games getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Just there's things you're not going to be able to account for or catch, but the main thing is everything worked, nothing crashed, it didn't bog down the game and have these negative effects, which I do appreciate. Yeah, it's crazy. And just in terms of map size, scaling everything up, adding the whole Queens area to the map to get a more, I think rural's the correct descriptor, the houses and the living area, and not having these tall-ass skyscrapers everywhere and anywhere. That was interesting, just that dichotomy of the city and then a little bit outside, to have that difference and that variance in terms of where you're swinging, what you're traversing through. That was great. And then the addition of the web wings just added another layer to, once again, the traveling. Going from swinging to web wings to flipping to going over a building to back into web wings. Made it such an exciting experience, trying to mess around, see how you can keep flying. Obviously, you have the wind tunnels to keep your momentum going if you really want to zoom through the city at a certain point. Great stuff throughout. Once again, story was amazing. The twists and turns that they took in that. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and sharing that experience with you guys watching on stream was a lot of fun as well. Just gushing about the cool things that were revealed or did happen in there. was an amazing time. I would highly recommend it to anybody who's even, had a glimpse of comic book fandom in there. Definitely continues where they left off in the first two, which is nice. And yeah, it's just a very fun experience. So we are going to get into spoiler territory. We're going to be covering everything, just kind of gushing about all the cool stuff. If you do not want to be spoiled, this is your time to leave. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you. Come back and check this out when you're done. But we're going to be talking about spoilers. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So let's talk about villains. Because this game delivered and then gave us dessert. And then after we were done with that dessert, gave us another little mini dessert as a teaser. This game just kept feeding us. And Kraven and Venom, obviously being advertised as the two main big villains, were great. Kraven felt like a threat the whole time. He had this ominous vibe about him of why he's in the city, what he's doing, all these areas that he's purchasing to make these base camps. And he's just doing these hunts for sport, and wants to do this as his last thing as a operational human as he gets older. So having that to build most of the narrative, while in the background we have this dilemma with Harry and the symbiote being attached to him, and taking that journey of how do we get to Venom, what's going to be the case there, seeing that and feeling the emotions when we get to that point where we have to battle our friend in this symbiote suit and try and save him, and accept responsibility for what if we can't do this? What kind of limits are we willing to push past in order to save the day for the greater good type thing? Similar to the first game where we really want to save Aunt May, but we can't. We need to do this for everyone and not just her. Similar situation here, where we're really pushing those buttons of what's the limit, or how far are you able to go to get to that point of saving people. And like I said, there was the main course and they kept just adding to it, whether it was the main story with Sandman. Unfortunately, I got spoiled on it, but it was in the launch trailer, so I guess Sandman at the beginning, giving him or using him as a little bit of illusion and a tease of Kraven coming. You have the return of Scorpion. You have the return of Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative, and seeing him and Miles' journey, obviously with Negative having the negative implications of Miles and his past and his father, seeing them deal with their issues. And more fun stuff like Mysterio randomly showing up, being around. Same with Tombstone. We get the tease of when Harry is actually using the symbiote for good. We get a tease at the Agent Venom suit before it goes to Peter and then turns into the whole rigmarole with Venom as the end, or as the villain. This, and then other more and more characters on top of that. You had the Black Cat mission, which teased at Doctor Strange. We get the tease with Wong, knowing that this universe outside of the Spider-Man stuff exists. Obviously, we've seen the teases of Avengers Tower. You see the teases of Iron Fist and his building, and Daredevil studio, and apparently there's a Wakandan embassy. I think I missed it. But then even a small thing that you could absolutely miss if you didn't go to the rooftops of this specific place. But Kingpin's area, the tower, his tower in the first game where you arrest him, that's been bought. And it's the Fantastic Four tower. Right at the top, there's fresh paint of the Four logo. You could totally miss that. That's the only place the Four is located. And just the amount of stuff that is hidden in the city that's so vast. Like I said, I never saw the Wakandan embassy. I don't think I saw the Daredevil stuff just because those landmarks weren't in it as photography spots like the first game. Didn't see that. Didn't go back to the restaurant with Stan Lee where he was. You can miss out on Aunt May's grave and Uncle Ben's and Jefferson Davis's, Miles' dad's grave. You can miss out on that stuff. You could miss out on the little award for Miles and Finn for their science thing in the church where you left it at the end of Miles Morales' game. And like, there's those things, but then there's also the side missions. And the side missions in the first game were fine. They really just awarded people in this game, it felt, with the side missions in terms of like, once again, here's your cake, eat it too, and keep going, because we got more for you. Like, on stream, we joked around, like, the last day. We had already beaten the story the previous day. The last day of the stream we were going to play the game was, we're going to do all the things that deal with the characters. Because from what I had played, that was what was alluded to. And I thought the other side missions were just going to be clear these bases, do these things, whatever. So we did the spider bots. And guys, let me tell you how much I freaked out about the spider bots. I saw them, I collected them. The whole story is like, oh, who's making these spider bots? Like, it's got a weird signal, whatever. And they're different spider people across the universes. Obviously, there's other ones which are villains like Vulture, Rhino, Scorpion, Mr. Negative, etc. But then there was Spider-Ham, there was Spider-Woman, there was a Gwen one, there was Arachnakid, there was, I don't know, just a bunch of different ones. And I'm like, had these ups and downs of like, are they going to do it? Are they going to actually pull the trigger? Are they going to give us Gwen in this game? They didn't, but similar, they didn't show him, but they teased at Spider-Man 2099. They gave us the fucking Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, the multiverse. They got us the stupid little hexagon graphics that they use in the Sony animated films. So they're acknowledging the multiverse here and these different spider people. Fantastic. So you get that from the spider bots. Then you get Yuri, you get Wraith, you get elevation on her story from the DLC where she kind of turns rogue and like anti-hero, where she's a little bit more violent. You build on her story, and eventually that story leads to Carnage being revealed. And that felt like, what are we doing here? That feels like it should be elevated, but stopping this cultist turns out to be Carnage, and he gets away, so we're going to build on that, and that's great. What else did we do on stream? We did all the Mysterio stuff, and you think, oh, Mysterio's going evil. Nope, he's actually being used by these other two chuckleheads. You had, oh, crud. Of course, now I'm forgetting because I didn't write it down. You had, what other characters were in this game? Oh, you had the birds from Kraven that were kind of hunting things down, and you're trying to protect these identities, or these target identities, try and find them, save them, and you keep learning more and more and more about them, and you find out it's Chameleon. It's Kraven's brother who's been hiding from him, and you go to his base, you get a little dialogue thing, you're like, oh, this is all we're gonna get. You end up escaping because he like rigs his apartment to blow up or poison or whatever the fuck. As you zoom away, there's Chameleon. You don't see him as his typical, 90s outfit. He's disguised. But I was like, what are you doing in here? Why are you even in this game? Like, they just kept building this world more and more. And it's insane. And you get these ones where it's the cool factor of the different villains making their appearances or being alluded to. But then also, the last missions I did personally were the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man app, and the Vicarious, like the student one. Student one was fine. You do little missions to help out the kids, and you get like a Puerto Rican flag suit for Miles. Suit. Totally cool. The last one, the neighborhood apps, those missions, those is where it pulls at the heartstrings a little bit more, makes you feel emotional, because it's just the regular people that you've been helping across the two previous games, and kind of seeing where their lives have gone, or like helping them out, and it's a little bit more of like a grounded emotional bond that you have with them. I'm going to mention two specifically. One that was hit on the emotional terms of like, this is sad, and one that hit on the emotional grounds of like, this is awesome, and I'm really glad that they added this, and this is going to mean a whole lot more for someone else than myself. So let's talk about the sad one. So in the first 2 games, you help a gentleman named Howard. Howard is a homeless man who has these pigeons that he raises and, kind of keeps safe after his wife had passed away and he's down on his luck. Now, for these missions, some of them, you can choose which Spider-Man to play as. So I'm sure there's different dialogue, obviously, because their relationship is different with the character. So because I knew it was Howard, because I looked through the trophies at this point, I decided to go with Peter, because Peter had this relationship with him from the first game and then asked Miles to help him, I believe, in the second game. Well, you meet Howard just chilling on some stairs, and he's looking out onto the lake, and he's reminiscing about, just taking it all in. So you just sit there, and you're looking at different landmarks, boats go by, the Statue of Liberty, etc. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be heading out. I think it's time for me to leave and go on to my next thing. And you're like, oh, okay. He's like, can you help me out and give my birds a new home? So you're like, sure, whatever. And Peter notices something's a little bit off with Howard. He's like, are you okay? Howard ignores him. Are you sure you're okay? Ignores him. So you decide to do this favor for him, bring the birds to a new home. You decide to bring them out to outside the city. So you go. You try and call Howard back after you've delivered the birds. No answer. And you zip back. And unfortunately, Howard has passed away. Just natural causes. He was at peace, the EMT said. It's really sad, because Peter kind of knew there that it seemed like he was ready to leave. And it I don't know. To me, it hit hard. Just it's a simple thing. Let's go swing over this way for a moment and then come back and he's gone. Just doing a simple mission in the first game to see this man down on his luck, but also very positive and I don't know. It sucked. But it was a very, very good element to add, because it really brought home, like I said, that grounded, friendly neighborhood part of not everything has to be this big catastrophic event for Spider-Man to make a difference for people. So the last mission that I'm going to talk about is, or at least the next one, like I said, it hits hard for me and I'm happy, but I know for a lot of other people it's going to resonate a lot more because of accessibility. And across the games, you've had moments where you play again as different characters. You play as Peter, play as Miles, you play as MJ, you play as Venom. We'll get to that later. There's a mission with Miles where there's a graffiti thing, or someone's vandalizing stuff. He responds to it, and the owner of the flower shop said, oh, someone's already taken care of it. She was an artist, she took care of it, fixed it up. And you're like, oh, that's great. It's Haley, his love interest, person you've known since the last game. And you get to play as Haley. And when I say how taken aback I was for a moment, not because oh, gotta play as her and this is gonna be weird, not doing the spider powers or whatever. So Haley's deaf, if you don't know. And they make you feel that. And it's it's in the best way possible, and it's weird. Your audio cuts out. All you hear is muffles. You hear your footsteps crunching, and you'll hear people talking in that muffled tone where you can't make anything out. All you see is these little emojis that will pop over their head as kind of signals to you of how they're feeling. And you just go around as Haley and you fix these areas that have been vandalized. And it's crazy how just a little tweak of obviously, sound design and stuff like that just made me go wow, they didn't have to include this, and they went that route, and that's going to make so many people just feel seen, heard, noticed, all that stuff. So yeah, that just made me really happy that they had that available and as something that they would tell in their story, even if it's a small thing, even if it's a side thing. Just including that just really felt powerful, and I appreciated that. So let's talk about, I alluded to it, Venom. You could play as Venom for a little while. That is crazy. Didn't think they would let us do that. A lot of fun jumping around and destroying things as him, obviously, because the rest of the time, you're trying to do good and stuff as you're beating up the bad guys, but just thrashing those guards, tossing them around, not eating them. They teased it a few times. I think they wanted to to have Venom munch a little bit, but that was a crazy thing gameplay wise. I already talked about the Agent Venom suit. The actual symbiote suit was nuts. The moment you got it, you just felt more powerful and destructive, and they did a great job of really making the characters grow in terms of like showing Peter's aggression throughout the story and how he's getting more consumed by the suit. The ending. How do I feel about the ending? And I guess this is where I'll wrap it up. I guess I talked a little quicker through it than I thought I would. That's what happens when you don't write things down. You're like, oh, talk about this, talk about that. That's all right. Just go off the chest, right? So in the end, Peter decides to retire. He's still going to be there if Miles needs help, but he's going to focus on his career and his life with MJ. I felt sad. And you're supposed to. I also felt a little, trying to find the right word for it, not frustrated, but kind of questioned it a little bit. So in the opening of the game, Miles is trying to apply seemingly for college. He has to do this essay about himself, and him and Peter are working on it, and they joke around like it's your recap for the past 2 games. So they talk about the Spider-Man stuff they're never going to really submit to the college, but it's a nice tool that they use as a story recap method. And throughout the game, Miles is dealing with his own stuff. He's dealing with the Mr. Negative stuff and how his father's passed. He's also dealing with this college essay, not finding a good way to describe himself or write this down. And at the end of this game, they kind of, at least I felt, they kind of just don't wrap up Miles' stuff super well. And it almost feels like they're just shoving it on him. Like, granted, like, he's Spider-Man. Oh, the whole city's yours now, kid. I get it. When Peter was doing this, he was also in high school. We don't get that experience as the player to play through. We got some flashbacks here, which was nice and appreciated. But we didn't go through that as the player. Going through it as Miles in the first game, seeing how much shit he went through and how much pressure he puts on himself, to continue that in this game where he's like, I gotta be a better Spider-Man. The city's relying on me, blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel horrible for Miles. Like, this seems a lot for a 17, 8-year-old. Like, here's all of New York City. It's all up to you. Like, oof, man. And he seems ready for it. Definitely is. He's smart and does things, but like, and he wants it. It's just like, you're just going to ditch everything. No essay follow-up. No university. Drop your life. Like, a little bit there. Now, we do get a tease at the end, as with all Marvel things, right? We do get a tease for a third game. Very excited for that. They're going to keep going with this. We get a tease with Otto, Dr. Octopus, making a return as Norman asks him for help. Otto blows him off, says, nope, you deserve this. You're a piece of shit, pretty much. So it seems like we're building those are going to be our 2 big baddies. Otto getting his revenge on Spider-Man, as he's been writing this book in the raft, entitled it The Last Chapter. Makes us think this trilogy is coming to an end. And then Norman being angry and upset with the Spider-Man because his son Harry is now back in a hospital bed and potentially dying. He talked about the G serum, I think is what it was called, which G, Goblin, Green Goblin. Seems like those two will be our big bads, similar to Mr. Negative and Octopus in the first one, Kraven and Venom, obviously, in this one. Seems like those will be our two big bads. Now, in my head, it doesn't make sense for Insomniac to be like, here you go, play as both Spider-Man. We'll have this technology where you can switch between the two and these different movesets and stuff. I get it. Peter got a lot in this story. You know, he was the main focus of the narrative. You still had your Miles stuff, but he was the main story. You got the symbiote suit with him. You got the anti-venom suit with him. You got a lot. I get it that you might feel like we're done with him, or you've done everything with him. It feels weird to me to offer both Spider-Men and then take that away for the third game. Now, a reason why I don't think they'll take it away is because Otto, Dr. Octopus, has no history with Miles. Nothing. He was already in the raft. He was already in jail when the Miles game happened. And he wasn't captured by Kraven, which, question mark. He has no interactions with Miles whatsoever. What's going to be his vendetta against him in this final chapter? So I feel like Peter's got to come back somehow. It's just maybe Spider-Man 3 will be more of a Miles-focused narrative, as this was a Peter-focused narrative. I don't know if that means Peter's going to die in the next game. I certainly hope not, especially if you're going to have both playable. Obviously, the replayability and afterwards of the free roam. I don't know if they would do that. But to me, logically, that doesn't make sense to just drop him. Obviously, he'll be in the world. You could still reference him. But I think he needs to be a bigger role than just like, hey, Pete, I'm calling you on the cell phone. What do you need? Or I need help with this. Those kinds of things. So, yeah. Excited for more. They did also have one more end credit sequence with Silk being shown, the back of her head, and teased. I don't know much about Cynthia Moon and Silk and her character, but cool to see another Spider-Person introduced. I think a lot of us thought Gwen Stacy was going to be introduced and Spider-Gwen. Haven't gone that route. I'm curious what their plan is to go with Silk. So yeah, we have a confirmation of a Spider-Man 3, at least with those teasers. We know Insomniac's working on a Wolverine game. There's been a lot of chatter recently of like DLC, Daredevil DLC, because of a sign going away and coming back on their building. I think that's silly. I've been really enjoying the Insomniac stuff. I hope, I'm glad they're ending at 3, allegedly. We'll see. It's all speculation at this point. I really enjoyed what they've done. I don't know how far they plan on going with the Marvel Universe. Obviously, they have the Wolverine stuff in works. If they're going to keep expanding this, or if it's just going to be these two things. But as of right now, I love the TLC that they're putting into this in terms of characters, lore, etc. I'm excited to see more from them. I'm really excited to see where this Wolverine thing goes and how that will go in terms of gameplay and world building, just because it's the opposite side of it, of like a whole new cast of characters and lore that you can dive into. It's going to be interesting to see. And yeah, now it's just the patiently sit and wait for if they do Spider-Man 2 DLC or if they just move on to 3. We'll have to see. But guys, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011. You can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You drop a follow over there, get notified when we go live, join in on the fun and conversation. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support: shares, likes, subscriptions, reviews, whatever it is. It may seem small, but does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me today, giving this a watch, giving it a listen, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.